Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Jason Williams, and I'm with my tag team partner, Blake Castetter, and we are the Sunday Fun Day guys. Blake, we are in the week 16. We got a little bowl action on a Wednesday. A lot of things going on in preparation for the Christmas holiday next week. 1 week away.
1 week away and semifinals for most.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I was in three, lost one, and I'm down to two leagues now. Or I'm sorry, yeah, no, three leagues. I was four, lost one. Now I'm in three leagues. So we will see what happens. But I got some major issues going on, but we'll discuss that in a little bit. So give me some ideas. There's some storylines going into week 16. Man, I can't believe it's week 16 already. Wow.
It is week 16. One real week left of fantasy
Mm.
world for us. And then we got to start mixing up the content to keep bringing value and entertainment, quote unquote. Let's see. So last week, disappointing performances from a number of players, two of which, Purdy and Jennings, knocked me out of my money league playoff game single-handedly. Bad choice. You live and you learn, move on. Major injuries to note from last week, though. David Montgomery, knuckles, out with a torn MCL, going to have surgery. What was the stat that I sent you? The season-long.
Oh, the over-under on yards for David Montgomery.
The rushing total?
Rushing total.
Was like 785 and a half, and he's at 785.
I know. Amazing. When
That's
you send me
wild.
that, I'm waiting for this Netflix documentary on Vegas in the betting. Like if somebody please out there, Netflix or Hulu or somebody would get this thing going, it would be the most watched documentary of all time. I would guarantee it.
It's wild how they do it.
Unbelievable.
So yeah, Knuckles out, Nick Chubb out, remainder of the season. Some injuries to keep an eye on. There's quite a laundry list. Alvin Kamara today undergoing further testing on his groin. He's at Monday Night Football this week, so that's some decisions that people are going to have to make, and I think we can touch on that a little bit later. Patrick Mahomes, and injured in week 15, was a full participant today, is expected to play this week. George Pickens, not at practice. Malik Neighbors and Tyron Tracy both limited at practice today. Tony Pollard re-aggravated his ankle injury in week 15 against the Bengals, which led to Tajay Spears' explosion of receptions and receiving yards. Michael Pittman with a back injury, and Alec Pierce still in concussion protocol. Tyler Higbee was, however, activated off the IR. I don't know what that means, but if you're struggling at tight end position, that might be a long shot in a high-powered offense that could put up some points for you. Zach Ertz, concussion protocol. DK and Kenneth Walker III missed practice. And then Isaac Guerrero missed practice today with a hamstring injury.
Wow. So it's like a laundry list of injuries. It's like a mass unit. Even, and these guys are going to be some important plays when it comes to, the games this week and determine if somebody's going to get to the championship or bow out in the semifinals. So a lot of injuries this week going into week 16, but you would expect that. It's a long season, and football is obviously a brutal sport, and to stay healthy all year is almost impossible. So lots of injuries. Thanks for bringing that to our attention, Blake. And I'm going to let you have your glory on the next segment. So go ahead. Go ahead and rub it in a little bit, and then we can get going. Go ahead.
But before we jump into my glory,
right?
It is important to bring up and just outline all the key injuries, because not only do they impact fantasy, but they also impact betting and performances. And just knowing who to keep an eye on and who might be in and who might be out can make a big difference. So our start-sit recap from week 15, I think our most recent one was our disagreement was A.J. Brown, and we're going to check in on him real quick. We had agreed that top 12 was the win, and outside of the top 12 was the lose. And you said to sit A.J. Brown?
I did.
Okay. Um,
Ah,
both A.J. Brown and the Slim Reaper were top 9 wide receivers this week in a half PPR format. So since we started tracking,
mm-hmm.
Jason, you have 1
Mm-hmm.
and I have 2.
Okay, so if they were top 9, were they 8 or 9, or were they 5 and 4? Or I mean, you kind of giving me some, if you're going to take the glory, take all the glory. I want to know exactly where they placed. Do
I
we know
don't
that?
recall. I know that A.J. Brown was 8 in full PPR and 9 in half PPR.
Okay, all right,
And then
fair
I
enough.
think Devonta Smith was 5 in
Oh,
full.
yeah,
I did not look at his rank in half.
I got you. So I should have chose the Slim Reaper is what I should have done to have a better game, but that's okay. Congratulations.
Yeah, yeah.
Kudos to you. Kudos to you. Before we get started, I do have something I want to bring to your attention. Have you noticed my sweatshirt?
Straight cash, homie.
Do we know what that means?
I mean, I remember it.
It's an ode to Randy Moss, his famous straight cash homie statement. So obviously, we all have heard Randy's going through a little battle with cancer. So I had the opportunity to play against Randy Moss, one of the best athletes I've ever seen on the football field, bar none. And just want to give him a shout out. Hope he's getting well from one former West Virginia football player to another former West Virginia football player. Get well, Randy. Love to see you back on ESPN for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of good tributes to him at the Minnesota game. A
Yeah.
number of different ways from, the pregame stuff to Justin Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's made a big impact on the sport of football for sure.
Changed the game at the wide receiver position, no question.
There's no doubt.
Yep. All right. Well, let's get into the starts. So this is the second week in a row we've got the same QB start. That must bode well because Jerry Goff did well last week in a loss.
Like 35 points.
35 points. So I will go because I always like to follow up my stuff with your stats, which is kind of how we do this thing. It works well. So my start of the week is Baker Mayfield. Baker had a game against the Chargers last week against arguably one of the best defenses in the NFL. 4 touchdown passes. Man, this week, Baker goes against the Dallas Cowboys, who give it the 4th most fantasy points to QBs. Baker is primed to continue his hot play and start him with the utmost confidence this week against the Dallas Cowboys.
He's going to have a big week. He's my start of the week too. And he scored 25 points his past 2 games. And I'm confident the streak continues this week heading into Dallas. Their defense allows a lot of points to the QB position, ranked 26th against QBs. 6 of the past 9 that have faced Dallas have scored at least 23.8 points. On top of that, Mayfield has found his wide receiver 2 in Tampa. He also has a tight end that he trusts. The over-under for this game is the highest of the week at 48.5 points, with an implied point total of 26 points for Tampa Bay. Baker's got top 3 upside, in my opinion.
No question. No question. If you got him, I would say maybe other than Josh Allen, Lamar, and Hurts, maybe you got to play Baker.
Yeah. I mean, and Hurts might even be a question mark. He has up and down games.
Yeah, and I put Burrow in there. We can't forget about Joe.
True.
100%. Yep. So
I think those are the top 5 for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Who you got as your sit for the week, Blake, at quarterback?
Well, this might help you out, Jay.
We'll see.
My sit of the week is Tua. Currently sitting on Fantasy Pros at QB 14 for the week. Last week, he had his worst fantasy performance of the year, scoring only 5.8 fantasy points and throwing 3 interceptions. Waddle's banged up, and he might not even play this week. You've got Tyreek making cryptic posts on X, formerly known as Twitter. They're hosting a pass defense in San Francisco that's pretty stingy. They've been good against the pass all year long, and they just got healthier. One fact I saw, they've only allowed 3 quarterbacks to score 20 points or more all season long.
Wow, that's impressive.
So I don't know if he breaks a top 15 mark at the QB position this week.
I got you. So I'm going to pose my question to you while we're on the Tua topic. So I have Tua and I have Geno Smith this week. Now, Geno obviously got hurt in the game last Sunday night, but he has been a full participant at practice. If you were me, Blake, what would you do? Start Geno, Tua, or pick up someone off the waiver wire? Let's say a Drake May, a Cooper Rush, or a Mac Jones. Thoughts?
Oof.
I know, right?
Who's Seattle got this week?
That's a great question. I can tell you who they have here in a few seconds. Let's see. Seattle. They play the Vikings at home.
So division matchup at home.
Mm-hmm.
Geno's banged up.
Mm-hmm.
No Kenneth Walker,
Right.
most likely. I'd probably take my chances on Tua.
Okay. So you wouldn't pick anybody up off the waiver wire? Those games didn't interest you at all?
No.
Okay.
Those three that you rattled off did not.
That's the only ones I got left.
Aiden O'Connell's back.
Stop it. Stop it.
Mason Rudolph is starting in Tennessee.
I didn't say his name, but he was going to be my fourth one. But I didn't say
Dorian Thompson Robinson against Cincinnati.
Nope. Okay. All right. Fair enough. We'll do some more research, but I'm kind of in a conundrum, so we will see how it all shakes out. I'll keep you updated next week. Okay. So with that being said, Tua is Blake's sit of the week. My sit of the week is Brock Purdy. Man, how the mighty have fallen, Blake. Listen to these stats. In 3 of the last 4 games, Brock has thrown for less than 160. Let me repeat, 160 yards, and only has 3 total touchdowns over that span. Now, I know the Niners have been decimated by injuries, which is the reason I'm sitting Brock Purdy this week against Miami's defense. It was actually pretty good, only allowing 204 passing yards per game, 8th best in the league. So I am hedging my bet on sitting Brock Purdy just because the team hasn't been healthy. He doesn't have all his weapons. He's been a little bit inconsistent, and you just really can't trust him at this point in your fantasy season with the playoffs, potential championship on the line.
I wouldn't trust Purdy. I'm done trusting Purdy. I may never pick up Purdy again.
Oh, Austin Eckler like?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry to hit a nerve, buddy.
So I like your sit of the week.
You love my sit of the week.
He can stay on the waiver wire for all I care.
I hear you. I got you. Now let's get to the running backs. So I'll start with my running back, my start of the week at the running back position. I'm going with Kyren Williams, Mr. Consistency. That is Kyren Williams. The volume of carries he's getting, like he's averaging over 20 carries over the last 6 weeks. 20. I can't remember a running back that has had that average of carries in a number of years. We're probably talking Peterson, maybe, or Derrick Henry, or someone like that. But you just don't see that amount of volume in a running back these days. And plus, with his skills receiving out of the backfield, Kyren is a must-start in all formats. This sounds like a no-brainer for sure. I'm rolling with Kyren Williams against the Jets defense, who allows 121 yards per game rushing, 17th in the league. Fire Kyren up this week, no question.
Yeah, that's a safe pick. I think you've got a Jets team that just got Sauce Gardner back. So their pass defense is going to be improved compared to what it's been over the past handful of weeks. They'll definitely lean on the run.
Mm-hmm.
And their run defense has not been great.
No.
But you talked about touches. That leads me right into Rico Dowdle. Dowdle is my start of the week. You know, maybe Dallas is starting to figure something out on the ground game. Rico has cracked the century mark 3 weeks in a row. He's had at least 19 touches in the past 4 games. Tampa's run defense is improving. They were never bad, but they've been improving over the past few weeks. But I'm going to go with volume and say that he's a safe top 20 RB this week against Tampa Bay.
So are you saying RB2?
An RB2, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. No,
but a middle to low end RB2, not a high end RB2. I don't think he cracks RB1.
Okay. No, I think again, we talk about running backs getting touches. How many times have we seen these running backs by committee get 10 touches, 11 touches, maybe 12 if you're lucky? Kyron and Rico are getting almost 20 carries a game. So by default, they're going to get you better point totals than most running backs just because of the sheer volume. Now, again, a lot of it has to do with the team they're going up against and their run defense, but I agree with your start, and I agree with my start in terms of guys that are going to get touches, which can lead to production, which can lead to more points, which can put you over the top if you're looking for running backs to start.
You might not agree with my sit of the week, though.
Why not?
Everyone's high on him this week, and I was high on him to begin the season.
You were, yes.
He was my sneaky late round pick that might catapult us into a long season long if Chubb had never returned or came back banged up, or even if Jerome Ford just had a great season, but he didn't. But right now, Fantasy Pros has him at RB20 on the week. And I think these high projections are because of the incoming volume with Chubb being out. But Ford had his shot early in the season. Only broke 10 PPR points twice in 5 games before Chubb's return. And let's not forget about who's lurking behind him in Deonta Foreman. He is the backup of backups. He's been a road warrior. What quarterback am I thinking of that's played on a million different teams? I'm drawing a blank. Thursday Night Football, beard.
Ryan Fitzmagic.
Fitzmagic. Deonta Foreman is the Fitzmagic of the running back world.
He's also a touchdown vulture, too. Let's not forget about that.
He is a touchdown vulture as well. So on top of all of that, so we don't know what impact Deonta Foreman's going to have or Pierre Strong in the receiving game, right? Everyone also thinks the Bengals' run defense is awful. Now, while they are ranked 20th on the year, they are 15th over the past 3 weeks. I think the Bengals are going to plan to stop the run and force Dorian Thompson-Robinson to beat them through the air, which I think he'll have some success doing. Which leads me to not think that Jerome Ford is anything more than a flex play at best.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I think your preseason, your preseason love for Jerome Ford was warranted. But here's the thing. We didn't know how bad Cleveland's offensive line was going to be. I mean, last year, their offensive line was dominating. They had one of the top 2 or 3 offensive lines in the league. And for some reason this year, I don't know if it's because of injuries. I don't really keep up with Cleveland. But their offensive line has been terrible at best. So that's where the production for Jerome Ford and Chubb has lagged, because the offensive line just can't either has been hurt or they're just not playing as well as they did last year. So totally understand. I don't have them really high this week either. I was never really sold on them. I can understand why you liked them, because there was opportunity and potential there. But I think now, to your point, I think the Bengals definitely focus on the run. And DTR is going to have to basically pass to beat them. So, I just don't see that happening. So, and then the other running backs, Foreman and, the back out of the backfield, who's just going to catch a bunch of passes. I mean, I just don't see Jerome Ford doing anything fantasy worthy this week, even though everybody's high on him.
And I think part of it also is he broke off that 70-yard run against Kansas City for a touchdown, which took him to 18 fantasy points, PPR points last week. You take away that one chunk play, 6, 8. I mean, you're talking he's under 10 fantasy points. And no one's thinking about him as the top 20 RB.
Right. And I think that's when you're talking about fantasy, that's kind of the game within the game. You got to look at the entirety of the game. Like, are they getting long runs or are they getting short ones? Now that's some deep diving, folks, but that plays a role in terms of who you're going to pick up. Now, everybody's, to Blake's point, high on Jerome Ford, but if you take that run away, then what has he really done? Really nothing. Average at best.
Correct.
Yep. My sit of the week is Brian Robinson Jr. And he's actually a favorite with me and Blake. So the Sunday Funday guys love Brian Robinson Jr. Shout out to B-Rob J. But this week he's going up against the number 1 defense in the league, the Philadelphia Eagles. Couple of stats for you, Fanatics. Philly is allowing 102 rushing yards per game, which is seventh in the league, and they've only surrendered nine touchdowns to running backs all year, which is sixth in the league. So, owners of B. Rob Jr., caution if you're starting him this week, and hopefully you have a much better options because I think Philly is going to, as good as Jane is, I think Philly's goal is always to stop the run, and I don't see Brian Robinson Jr. Being able to break through that defense for RB1 type numbers. He could definitely be an RB2 or flex, but I don't see RB1 in him this week.
I agree. And Phil, I've said it multiple times. Philly's run defense is good, but they're not great. But Philly's pass defense is number one in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So Robinson will have his opportunities, but you're talking the number one overall defense in the NFL.
Yep. Not easy to run on or pass on. Hence the reason they're number one.
Who is easy to pass on, Jason?
Well,
Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Yes, no question. Which leads me right into my start of the week at wide receiver. Going with CD. Yes, CD's been balling. CD has topped 100 yards. Topped 100 yards last week against the Panthers, and also has back-to-back games with touchdowns. And it looks like the chemistry between CD and Cooper Rush is getting better each week, which leads me to this week's juicy matchup against Tampa Bay, whose defense has given up 23 touchdowns this year to wide receivers, 23, and allowing 247 passing yards a game, which is 29th. So fire up CD. This is an opportunity for you guys who picked him early to take advantage of the matchup, and it's definitely a juicy matchup this week against Tampa Bay.
Definitely an opportunity for a big play.
Mm-hmm.
Or 2 or 3.
Or 4 or 5. All right, who's your? I'm a little shocked by this start of the week you had.
This took a lot.
Yeah.
For me to come to terms with this one because I really am struggling with trusting Caleb Williams, but the history and the matchup are there. I'm starting Keenan Allen.
Mm-hmm.
The history. Keenan Allen went 5 for 73 and 2 against Detroit on Thanksgiving. I mean, everyone was talking about Keenan Allen being written off. He's done. He's droppable. We might have even said it.
Oh, yeah.
And then literally that same week, Keenan Allen goes off for 73 and 2 touchdowns against Detroit.
Of course.
Now you've got the rematch. I know that's how it works, right?
Right.
One day I say bench him and he goes off. The Lions now are decimated on defense. I mean, they are hurt. They're bringing in people just to have bodies on the field. And they're still the 7th most points allowed to wide receiver position. Allen, starting with Thanksgiving, has scored 20 PPR points or more in 3 of his last 4 games. I project he'll be a top 20 wide receiver this week in what Vegas thinks will be a high-scoring affair with an over-under of 48 points.
Well, when you put it like that, it kind of makes sense now. I had to make sure I was listening to understand why you would start Keenan Allen. And now, you always come with the stats. So that makes sense to me, especially to your point, the Lions defense is decimated. The offense feels like it needs to score on every drive. And I can see every game with the Lions moving forward, who no matter who they're playing, it's going to be a shootout.
Yep.
And I don't think this game will be any different. And again, we talked about the weather last week, the Thursday night game. I'm just assuming it will be cold. I think it's in Chicago. I'm pretty sure it is. So I don't think that'll be a factor, but definitely can see Keenan Allen having a game. But to your point, it all is contingent on what Caleb Williams is able to do. I watched the game last week, and man, he missed some throws, like the Monday night game. Man, he's I don't know if he's seeing ghost or what. I'm like, man, you got to get rid of that. I mean, the guys were running wide open in the middle, so that's concerning if I'm not only a Bears fan, but also any type of receiver for the Bears.
I think DJ Moore is a solid start this week too.
Yeah, yep. No, I had him as my start last week. So we'll see. Like I said, I think you make a valid point for both receivers to start, but you also made the point in the beginning, do you trust Caleb Williams? And if you do, then he can be great. And if you don't, he can be hit or miss. And he's again, I was shocked last week. We're at this point in the season, and he's not making the throws that were available to him last week. I was like, whoa, this guy's got a problem.
I mean, Bears fans have to be pretty I don't want to say upset, but really concerned around letting Justin Fields go and bringing in Caleb Williams and then seeing what they've seen.
It's funny. I have a person that I work with, and she is a huge Bears fan, and did not take too kindly to Justin Fields being shipped off to Pittsburgh. So, and I think that's the sentiment for a lot of Bears fans. They're not sold on Caleb. I think they were coming around to Justin, and then they pulled the trigger. So we'll see. But man, right now, Caleb is definitely struggling. To your point.
All right, where are we heading with your sit of the week at the wide receiver position, Jason?
Oh man, my sit of the week is
Wait, how can you do this and then think about starting Tua?
well, I'm not. That's the thing. I got some serious considerations to do. I got some serious thinking to do right now, buddy. My sit of the week is Tyreek Hill. Yeah, Tyreek Hill, a top 3 receiver in most fantasy drafts this year, has been disappointing. He's been hit or miss, mostly miss, and this week is no different. The Niners are playing the Dolphins, are playing the Niners defense, and Blake touched on it with Tua in terms of how good the Niners defense is against the pass. They're only giving up 194 yards per game. If you have better options, use them this week because at best, I think Tyreek is a flex play at best, and that's unfortunate for those who drafted him real high, like myself in a couple leagues.
If he can't perform and Waddle's out, I don't see how Tua has an even decent game.
All right, looks like I'll be firing up Geno Smith.
Keep an eye on him. See how that health is looking.
Yep.
I mean, you could always go pick up Aiden O'Connell.
Again, or Mac Jones, or whoever else is out there, but Aiden O'Connell. yeah, we're not doing that.
Well, I wouldn't do that either because I'm sitting Jacoby Myers, even with Aiden O'Connell starting, which helps his cause. But it is Jacksonville's defense that's causing me to sit Myers, not Aiden O'Connell. So we've picked on Jacksonville all year long. You pointed out 2 weeks ago that you watched the game and Jacksonville's defense actually looked good. And so I did some digging, and over the past 3 weeks, they've allowed the 13th fewest passing yards and allowed the 19th most rushing yards over the past 3 weeks. So the Jags defense seems to be coming around, seems to be improving. Hard to trust a banged up Aiden O'Connell. I don't see anything more out of Jacoby Myers than a wide receiver 3 or a flex. Definitely not the wide receiver 16 that Fantasy Pros has him ranked currently.
Whoa, 16?
16.
Wow. I don't see that at all. I do not see that at all. That's I don't
16.
see it. 16
with Aiden O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell. Wow. I don't understand that at all.
I do think with Aiden O'Connell back, though, I think Brock Bowers gets right this week again.
You do?
I do. He's had a slow couple weeks, and I think having a more consistent quarterback, I mean, for a third-string quarterback, is going to help him.
I hear you.
Still not my start of the week. My start of the week at the tight end position is Njoku. If he's healthy, if he plays, I think Njoku is a solid option this week. Now, this goes back to my Ford sit of the week. The Browns will have success through the air against the Bengals defense. It doesn't matter if it's Winston or DTR. If Njoku's healthy, he may end up top 3 tight end on the week. The Bengals simply cannot defend the tight end position. Since the beginning of time, they haven't been able to defend the tight end position. 3rd most receiving yards to tight ends, 2nd most touchdowns to tight ends, and the most fantasy points per game to tight ends. I might even go as far as to say start Jordan Akins if Njoku's out.
I'm speechless, but I don't, I don't know what to say about that, but you're 100% right. I mean, the Bengals have never covered the tight end. I mean, I've been in Cincinnati for 25 years. 25. You were born and raised here.
Yep.
They haven't covered the tight end since I moved here, and they damn sure haven't covered the tight end since you've been alive. So nothing's going to change with that. I would start Njoku with the utmost confidence, and whoever's behind Akins, start him too. You may want to start him too. So I don't even
Pick
know
him up
that
and
guy.
play him as a flex.
Yeah, seriously. The Bengals are notorious, and Bengal fans know this. Like, we are notorious for not covering the tight end, i.e., Dustin Keller, playoff game, Jets. We won't go there, but I think that's a pretty safe bet, Blake, in terms of starting Mr. Njoku.
Or whoever the tight end is that starts.
Or whoever the tight end is that starts. Yes, yes. So my start of the week is Sam Laporta. Is Sam back? The number one ranked tight end coming into this season is finally putting together a consistent 2 games. Now, I'm not asking for a lot. We're just going off of 2 weeks. 2 weeks is better than 1 week here, 1 week there. So over the last 2 weeks, Sam has had 5 catches on 7 targets and 7 catches on 10 targets. Now, we know the state of the Lions. Blake touched on it before. They're decimated by injuries. Their offense feels like they need to score on every drive, which means high-scoring affairs, opportunities for Sam Laporta and other skill players on Detroit's offense to get targets, catches. And that means Sam Laporta potentially could have solid games over the next 2 weeks as you get ready for your semifinals and potentially a championship.
I've played his anytime touchdown score for the past couple of weeks and been rewarded.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, he's going to get targets. You can't just continue to throw the ball to Jameson Williams or Amron, even Amron 20 targets or whatever. And then with David Montgomery being out for the year, again, it opens up more of the passing opportunities for Gibbs, for Laporta, for Patrick. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit scored 40 points for a game the rest of the season because they're that good, but their defense is also that bad.
Yep.
Yep.
Another top tier tight end is your sit of the week, or
Yeah.
preseason top tier tight end at least.
Man, I feel like this is a broken record with preseason top 10 or top 5 or receivers, tight ends, whatever. But I'm sitting Travis Kelce this week. Another guy who's been a big disappointment. The emergence of Noah Gray, coupled with Mahomes trusting his wide receivers more. I think last year, if you recall, man, his wide receivers had the drop season. He depended on Travis to kind of get him out of some sticky situations. But now, I think he trusts his receivers, and also they're getting Hollywood Brown back too, which I did not put in this sit of the week in terms of Travis Kelce, but I also think that could play a role. I don't see Travis Kelce really being a threat anymore. And according to ESPN, he's a top 5 fantasy tight end this year. Folks, I don't see it. He'll get you maybe 5 for 40. And that's okay. But I think the days of Travis Kelce scoring 15 to 20 points are over. I think you can start to see the wear and tear, the wear and tear on his body in the decline. So I'm saying sit Travis Kelce this week against the Texans, who are actually top 5 in catches and receiving yards allowed to tight ends. So even more reason to sit Mr. Kelce this week.
Yeah, Noah Gray has come on hot these past few weeks. And just, again, spreading out those targets. Kelce's not getting that high volume targets like he used to.
Nope, not at all. Not at all.
And Kansas City's playing different offense.
Yep.
Their entire approach to football is different these past few years. Past 2 years at least. Like, their defense is good and they know it, and they're doing just enough to win the game.
And plus, their interior 3 guys, their center and 2 guards are really good. So what do? They run it inside a lot. You notice Kansas City doesn't do a lot of outside stuff. They usually pound it right up the middle because that's where their bread and butter is laid. So change the philosophy pretty much. And I think that's affected Travis Kelce's production.
And then there's Pacheco, who's a great fit for pounded up the middle as well.
And Kareem Hunt.
And Kareem Hunt.
Yep. Uh-oh.
My sit of the week
The
is
honeymoon's over.
It's over. We're done.
Done.
It's over. Done. Finito. Finale. Terminated. Whatever. Cade Otton. You can go ahead and drop him. I dropped him in my league of record. The top targets in this offense are clearly Evans and McMillan. Otton has seen 4 or less targets in 3 of the past 4 weeks. Dallas is stingy against the tight end position. Sneaky stingy.
Mm-hmm.
Find an option with a Heiler season. You can go pick up Brenton Strange for Jacksonville.
He had double-digit targets last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he had double-digit catches.
He was. If he didn't, he was close, right?
He might have been like 9 for 73.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he's number 2 in the pecking order there in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, again, I think our infatuation, so to speak, with Cade Otton went for a solid 2 months, and that's more than most, especially at the tight end position, which has been really, really. I think if you talk to any fantasy podcaster, fantasy expert, they'll be like, the tight end position has been the most inconsistent position, other than a rookie. Of all the people, Brock Bowers has been the most consistent tight end out of everybody. And you're talking about Hall of Famers. You're talking about a tight end that was set the rookie record for receiving yards and catches last year, Laporta. You got Kelsey. You got Mark Andrews. I mean, you got guys that have consistently put up numbers. And this year has been a total wash in terms of that. And Cade Otton, while we loved you, buddy. You were a Sunday Funday guy's favorite, but now we got to let you go. Got to let you go, man. Got to let him go, Blake.
All right, let's move on to our survivor. And we got our 3 highest picks of the week, plus we did a bonus just because we're in Cincinnati and they happen to be the number 4 popular pick of the week. So, Jason, the most popular pick this week, Green Bay over New Orleans. So Green Bay favored by 14 points, 87% chance for the win. 37.2% popular pick this week. They continue to find a way to win. New Orleans, maybe without Carr, Olave, Kamara, and Shaheed. Is there any way that Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler can pull off the upset in Lambeau?
No.
No?
No. I mean, no.
What about Derek Carr?
No, that would be that might be worse.
What about Derek Carr with a banged up Kamara?
No.
You're
going to have 2 Kamaras. It doesn't matter.
What about a banged up Derek Carr, a banged up Alvin Kamara, and a back off the IR Chris Olave? Still no?
Still no.
Okay.
At least you maybe pause for a little bit, but no. And remember, New Orleans jumped out to that hot start. They were 2-0. Everybody's like, oh, my God, New Orleans. Remember that? I mean, everybody was looking. And all of a sudden, the wheels came off quick. Now, a lot of that has to do with injuries, but I just don't see Lambeau, Green Bay. Green Bay still has a lot to play for. They're playing actually pretty good ball. Jordan Love is not turning the ball over. He's being efficient. Josh Jacobs is running through people like nobody's business. Probably one of the best free agent pickups of the year, no question. I don't see this. Now, 14, again, these double-digit spreads always scare me. I think Green Bay wins comfortably, but, man, 14 seems like an awful lot. But Baltimore covered against the Giants last week.
Sure did.
Yeah, yep.
All right, I agree with you. Game number 2. Atlanta over the Giants. 8.5-point favorites, 71% win odds, 21.8% popular pick. Giants coming into Atlanta. Rookie Michael Penix starting over Cousins, and Drew Lock has been announced as the starter for the Giants. What's Michael Penix do for Atlanta's offense? And is there any chance that the Giants come in against a rookie quarterback and pull the upset? The Fanatics, there's no way they've picked Atlanta yet.
Right.
So this is a big one.
Well, let me first start with Penix. And I'll get to this in another segment, but I am a big fan of Michael Penix. Like, I thought he was the most accurate quarterback coming out of college. And you know how much I love watching college football. So I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of talent. Maybe not the best, but pretty good. He made some throws in college that I've seen only the best of the best make. So that I'm excited to see him play because I think in that offense, he could be dynamic. Now, with that being said, it is his first start. He is a rookie. But if you could pick a better team to go against than the Giants. I mean, what a dumpster fire the Giants are. So I think Atlanta wins. I think Atlanta coming off a game against the Raiders is confident. I think obviously something's up with Kirk Cousins. You don't make this move when you're still in the playoffs unless you know something that we don't know. Would you agree, Blake? I mean, you don't do this. They're still in there. They still have a shot, meaning Atlanta.
I
And they're
mean, Cousins has looked bad.
right, and they're making the move to Penix. So coupled with Cousins looking bad and Penix probably looking better in practice, then I just don't see how the Giants win with Drew Lock starting at quarter. It could be DeVito, Drew Lock, Eli Manning, whatever. The Giants, they're just a bad team. Bad team.
I think it'll be closer than 8.5, unless Penix comes out and just pulls a Jaden Daniels, right?
Which
But
I think he will.
He could.
Yeah, I really do.
I picked him up in my league of record just in case.
I'm thinking about it. I'm strongly considering it.
At the same time, Atlanta doesn't really need to use him to win the game.
Correct.
They could literally hand it off to Bijan and Algier 75% of the time.
Yep.
And their defense can stop the Giants enough to win the game.
Right.
So I think it's a safe pick, Atlanta over the Giants.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with that.
The number 3 most popular pick this week is Buffalo over New England. Buffalo's favored by 14 points. Win odds of 87% and a 14% popular pick. Division matchup following a signature win by Buffalo over Detroit. Buffalo has scored 30 points or more in 8 straight games, setting a record. Is there any chance New England pulls off this win?
4 teams seems awful high for a division matchup. No, New England's not going to win this game. Josh Allen has been ridiculous, and I think he continues to be ridiculous. Does New England put up a fight? They usually do, but at the end of the day, Buffalo has more talent. New England has a rookie quarterback. No, they're not going to win. Buffalo wins this game. Do they win by 14? I'm not sure about that, but they win comfortably, more than a touchdown.
I think Buffalo covers 14 points.
Okay.
I don't think there's any chance. I do think it will be a high-scoring game because, like Detroit, Buffalo's defense is not good. They're going to allow people to score. But I don't think there's any chance in hell that New England can even come close to keeping up with Buffalo.
Yeah. And New England's offense is definitely not as dynamic as Detroit. So I don't. Yeah, you could be right. I mean, they could cover because I just don't think if Buffalo gets rolling and Josh Allen gets rolling, New England's not going to be able to keep up with that. They don't have the weapons.
And so the final game, our bonus game, just because we're in Cincinnati. Cincinnati over Cleveland, favored by 7.5, 76% win odds, and the 7% popular pick. You got DTR starting in a division matchup. He did see time against the Bengals in October. He went 11 for 24 for 82 yards, and I think he had roughly 40 yards carrying the ball, but also 2 interceptions. And while the defense is going to allow points for Cincinnati, does Cleveland have enough firepower on offense with DTR and Jerome Ford to keep up?
No. I think that the good thing about the previous game is the Bengals got to see DTR in real live action. So they may not have a lot of tape on him, but they have at least an idea of what he's going to do and what he likes to do. So I think that's going to help them a ton. So with Deshaun going out in that game and DTR playing, I think now the Bengals can focus on him and some of his strengths and some of his weaknesses and try to take those away. But I'm hedging my bet on Joe in the offense. Even though the Bengals won the game, clearly Joe was not happy with the performance. 5 turnovers. So I think you're going to get a ridiculously efficient effort from the Bengals offense, regardless of what the Bengals defense does. It's the Joe Burrow show, and Jamar and T and Chase Brown in Cleveland, regardless of how decent their secondary is, will not have an answer for that this week.
I'm with you.
Yep.
4 safe picks.
Yep. Agreed.
I got a question for you, Jason.
What's your question, Blake?
What's the best way to get your Sunday started right?
Ooh. You got a little hump day action going on over there. I like it.
Tastes so good when it hits your lips, my friend.
Always. We got the Sunday 6-pack. We got Blake has 3 bets, and I have 3 bets to get your week kicked off and kick started the right way. If you're using FanDuel, what is the other one? DraftKings, all those sites, you're going to want to listen up, folks. Blake, you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go with my first one. It's Mike Evans hitting the over 67.5 receiving yards. This line hasn't been released yet on most sites, but I did find one where it was released at 67.5. He's 251 yards away from 1,000. And we all know that's important to him and important to Baker. And I have a feeling that Baker is going to continue to get him involved early and often. He's also important to the Bucs' playoff hopes. Since coming back from his injury, he's exceeded 68 yards in all 4 games. So he's covered the line of 67.5 in all 4 games. 2 of the past 3, he's had double-digit targets and over 118 yards. Dallas is up next, like we talked about earlier. 21st ranked pass defense. The past 3 games, they've allowed an average of 221 yards. Trayvon Diggs is likely out again this week. And the over-under, as I mentioned earlier, 48.5 points, the highest of the week. There's going to be a lot of offense, and I think that's going to run through Mike Evans.
Yeah, I mean, all your points are valid with Mike Evans. He's been the most consistent wide receiver that really nobody talks about, unless you're in fantasy. Unless you're in fantasy, he doesn't really get a lot of pub because maybe he's in Tampa. But if you're a fantasy owner, you know about Mike Evans. You know how consistent he is, and that that 67 seems right on the line. Vegas knows how to they know how to ride that fence for sure. But I would definitely take this. I would hedge my bet with Mike Evans going over 67.5 yards for sure.
I'm staying in the over on receiving yards the entire way through.
Yeah.
My next is Devontae Adams over 72.5 this week. So you pointed this out a couple weeks ago. Since joining the Jets, only 2 games this year or this time frame that he's had less than 9 targets. The past 2 weeks, he's gone for 109 and 198 yards. This week, he's facing the Rams. 2 of the past 3 weeks, they've allowed wide receiver to cover this line. A.J. Brown with 109 and Shakir from Buffalo with 106. I think Adams has started to understand the offense, and with them being eliminated, now he's being a little selfish. Adams has always talked about how it's bigger than me, but when there's no more than me because they're eliminated, I think he's like, hey, Rodgers, feed me the rock. I need to pad my stat line for this Hall of Fame bid. Because, if we're being honest, he's right on that cusp. Rodgers is throwing him the ball a lot. So 72.5, based on what he's done recently, seems awful low for me.
Yeah, you can make a case that number should be about 80.
I was kind of surprised when I saw 72.5.
And here's the thing. I think people don't realize, again, Rodgers and Devontae have a long history, but they haven't played together in a couple years, and it takes some time to get that chemistry back, even though they've played together. I think you're seeing the last 2 or 3 weeks, you're seeing what they did in Green Bay manifest itself with the Jets. Now, it's too little too late, but that doesn't mean they can't score like the Rodgers and Adams tandem of old, and that's what they're doing over the past couple weeks. Yep.
If you traded for him and you held on to him, or you held on to him through all those down weeks when he first came, you're reaping the benefits now.
For sure.
And then finally, Khalil Shakir over 46.5 receiving yards. I thought this line was really low. And then I looked into it and, I'm projecting him around 58, 59, 60 yards receiving. He's had at least 7 targets in his last 8 games. He's clearly Allen's number 1 target. He's hit the over on this line 9 out of 12 games this season. New England is ranked 18th in points allowed to wide receivers. And Christian Gonzalez is banged up and may miss this week. All those factors point to me saying Khalil Shakir is going to over 46.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I think Khalil Shakur, excuse me, say that 10 times. You could make an argument for him being kind of the receiver that came out of nowhere. I mean, in the beginning of the year, we were like, okay, well, who's Josh Allen going to throw to? Like, they got a rookie, they got a couple guys we never heard of. I'm like, okay, well, what's going to happen with his receiver core? And Shakir's been the one that's been the most consistent. And even whether it be receptions or yards, I think you can go to over on definitely yards and also receptions with Shakir. He seems to always find the middle of the field. Josh Allen loves throwing to him early and often. And, he's probably, if you got him on your team, he's probably carried you over the last couple of weeks with his production. So definitely 46.5 seems more than doable.
As I'm sitting here looking at your numbers or your bets, I went all over on the receiving and you went all touchdowns.
I did. I went all over quarterback touchdowns. So my first one is, man, if this isn't a slam dunk, I don't know what it is. This is like a Shaquille O'Neal slam dunk. Like, this is throwing it down. Joe Burrow over a touchdown and a half against the Browns. Joe's on fire. Now, get this. Since week 9, Joe Burrow has thrown 3 or more touchdowns since week 9.
In every single game.
Every single game, which is, I looked at the stats, was like, I knew he was playing great, but this is a whole nother level of great. So with that being said, give me Joe and 1.5 in the over 1.5 touchdowns this week against the Browns. Again, slam dunk.
Break the glass, slam dunk.
Yeah. This is like, this is NBA Jams on fire, breaking glass, double dribble. That might be before your time, but that was always a good NES game. My next quarterback to break over a touchdown and a half is Baker Mayfield. We touched on Baker earlier in the segment. Both Blake and I love him in terms of playing him this week. Love his potential stat line. He's been hot. 7 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. Again, 7 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. Give me Baker over a touchdown and a half this week against Dallas, whose defense has been known to give up some fantasy points to QBs, as we both stated early in the show. So we got Joe over touchdowns and Baker over with touchdowns. Now, my last one, this is a little bit interesting. So the line isn't out yet in terms of over touchdown total. And I would imagine it'll be 0.5, but I totally could be wrong. But whatever it is, I'm betting on Michael Penix. Yes, I've been watching Michael Penix since his days at IU. And for my money, he's the most accurate. He was the most accurate quarterback coming out of this year's draft. Yes, I know about Jaden. I know about Caleb. I know about Bo. And I know about Drake. But my guy was Penix Jr., and I'm banking that he would throw over his touchdown total in his first start against the New York Football Giants, who are hot garbage, to say the least. So I am going with Michael Penix over his touchdown total this week against the Giants. That's going to be one to keep an eye on. Very much so. I'm looking forward to watching them play. I've been waiting for that for a long time, so we'll see. I do have a college bet, and it's the college football playoff edition bet, and I'm going with the Battle of the Hoosier State. Blake, your team, your Fighting Irish, they are a 7.5-point favorite at home against the Indiana Hoosiers. Now, Indiana's had a great year. Let me rephrase that. They've had an awesome year, but this is Notre Dame. The tradition, touchdown Jesus, and Blake, the luck of the Irish is in full effect in that stadium. Trust me, I played there. I know what it's like. Give me the Irish and the points against the Hoosiers, who after Saturday can focus on basketball season. There you go.
You think Fighting Irish covers 7.5, huh?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right.
Yep.
I might have to play that one. All right. Hey, so we have a
Oh,
question.
okay.
Shout out to
Dave. So Dave is one of my old colleagues from West Virginia, actually an old teammate who I played football with. He messaged me on Facebook. He's like, "Hey, I heard you got a fantasy podcast." I was like, "Yes, we do." And he had a question, and it all forms around Alvin Kamara's injury status and if he is out, what his best options are. Blake, do you want to go through those options?
Yeah, let's roll. So he's wondering how serious the injury is and what his best option is if he's out. So on his bench, he's got Garendo at Miami, which we talked about a minute ago, talking about how he has a hamstring he's battling. You've got Flowers against Pittsburgh, Stevenson at Buffalo, and Adam Thielen against Arizona. What is his best option and how serious is Kamara's injury? So, right out of the gate, I say from his lineup, he needs to move Dowdle to the running back spot to open up his options at the flex position. Now we can go tight end, wide receiver, running back.
Mm-hmm.
Kamara is dealing with a groin injury and getting more tests done. He plays on Monday Night Football. The Saints are playing for nothing, and they just paid him. Do you think they risk him?
I do not.
I don't think so either.
I don't see any reason why they would risk injury. I mean, especially for a running back, a groin thing is tricky. It's like a hamstring with a receiver, like George Pickens. There's no timetable because hamstring injuries of receivers that can be a struggle getting back. And I think groin issues for running backs are on that same level.
So you've got Garendo at Miami. Miami's got a decent run defense, and Garendo's dealing with a hammy.
Mm-hmm.
You got Zay Flowers versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's pass defense has been middle of the road of late. They started off hot, but middle of the road of late. You've got Stevenson at Buffalo. Now, Buffalo's run defense has not been good, but Stevenson's been hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Thielen against Arizona. Arizona's got a top 12 pass defense. And it really runs through Bryce Young.
Right.
3 of his past 4 weeks, he's done well, but last week he did not in a game that he should have.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your take on what he should do?
Well, I agree with you. He should move Dowdle to the running back and open up a flex. Now, in terms of who I would play from his bench, is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, I mean, we both agree that Kamara most likely isn't going to play groin.
Right.
And is it worth risking keeping Kamara in his lineup on a Monday Night Football game? Now, if he can go pick up Kendre Miller, that's always an option, right?
Sure. Yep.
So move him to his flex position and then wait to the last minute. But we're going to assume that Kendre is not available because we don't have that information.
Right.
So it'd be really hard. I'd be really pressed come Sunday at 1:00, maybe even Saturday, because we got Saturday games this week.
Yes, we do.
To have Kamara in his lineup.
I would agree. So, I mean, with that being said, I'm looking at the 4 options, and I got to be honest with you, Blake. I mean, Garendo's hurt, and we don't know the extent of that injury. And I'm not sold on Stevenson and Thielen. I would go with Zay Flowers. I know that's a gamble. I get it. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Lamar doesn't do well against Pittsburgh. That narrative has been written, but for some reason, I think Baltimore plays different this week against Pittsburgh, and if they are, then I think Zay Flowers will have a big opportunity. He's played well against the Steelers recently, but if I'm going with somebody, I'm probably going to go with Zay Flowers, even though the consistency over the last 2 weeks is not, or the point production over the last 2 weeks has not been there. I would still go with Zay Flowers.
So I'm torn. I like touches.
Yep.
And Stevenson's going to get touches against a defense that's not good.
Right.
In Buffalo.
Uh-huh.
But it's New England.
Right. Are you scared of them throwing the ball to anybody? No.
No.
Right. Are you scared of Lamar? Mm. The other players factor in on this decision. Who's around that said player?
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. I mean, that's when you start looking at if it's a flip of a coin. Okay, well, who's around this player? And I'll be honest with you, if it's Lamar, I'm taking Lamar over Purdy, over May, over Young. Yeah, so I'm going with Zay Flowers.
I think that's where I'd have to go too. And
Yeah.
if it's not Zay Flowers, if he doesn't want to go wide receiver, I would go Stevenson.
It has to be Stevenson. Yeah,
He's getting touches.
yeah. So it'll either be Flowers or Stevenson. That's a tough call. But sometimes again, you got to go with your gut. My gut's telling me, for all the struggles Lamar's had against the Steelers, this may be the week where he kind of fights off those demons.
We know points are going to be scored in Buffalo.
Correct.
There are going to be points scored. So Stevenson really is kind of touchdown dependent.
Oh, yeah.
He might plunge in for one or two.
But also, remember, he's losing carries to Gibson. And if that game becomes a shootout, that's going to take Stevenson out of the mix, and Gibson will start playing.
If it is a game script from behind, then yes.
Yeah.
There is that chance that Stevenson gets less touches.
Yep.
For sure. That's another reason that I go Flowers.
Oh, yeah. Because I can totally see that happening in terms of the script. You're 100% right.
Well, make sure you thank your friend and let him know that his answers here on the Sunday Fun Day Guys Fantasy Football Podcast.
Dave, we hope you're listening. I gave him the link. So when we publish this, I will let him know. And then I will report back to you on what happened, good, bad, or indifferent. So, but no, I think about Flowers is the safe pick, and Stevenson would be second.
Well, to wrap up, I was able to put together a fun fact for us.
Oh, yeah.
So last week in Cincinnati, defensive end Sam Hubbard caught his first touchdown pass. One of 5 touchdowns that the Bengals scored, but none of them went to Jamar Chase. Did you know Sam Hubbard is now amongst some serious good company? He has as many receiving touchdowns in 2024 as Dan Skipper, who's the Lions defensive tackle, and Deebo Samuel.
Wow.
Who also has 1 receiving touchdown on the season. But wait, I have more. It's also 1 more receiving touchdown than a tight end who has almost 90 receptions on the year. Probably the most reliable tight end this season, give or take Brock Bowers.
Not named Brock Bowers.
Not named Brock Bowers.
Yep.
In Trey McBride.
Wow.
The Bengals defensive end has as many touchdowns or more than Deebo Samuel and Trey McBride.
Wow. Listen, Arizona, get this man a touchdown. For God's sake, man. This guy's got 90 catches and no touchdowns. That's ridiculous. And Deebo, again, how the mighty have fallen. I mean, that stat alone shows you how the Niners have struggled this year and why their record is their record. He's got 1 touchdown. I mean,
one receiving
touchdown. That's hard to believe. That's really hard to believe.
He was going to be my sit of the week again this week. And then I looked at his ranking for week 16.
Low.
Wide receiver. Wait, you tell me. Where do you think he's at?
Oh.
Give me a guess.
Outside top 20.
Keep going.
30?
Keep going.
50?
He's wide receiver 46.
Close.
Wow. Holy cow.
Ooh, that's the bottom falling out. Man, that's man. Whew. I can't man, that's a fun fact that I was not expecting him to be that low. Man. Well, Blake, your fun facts are always interesting to say the least. Shout out to Sam Hubbard, local kid from Cincinnati, getting his touchdown. And Arizona, get Trey McBride a touchdown. Again, this is crazy. This man is putting up all pro numbers. You can't get him a touchdown? Come on, Kyler. Come on, man. Get this guy a touchdown. I'm lobbying Trey McBride for a touchdown. Now I'm going to be paying attention all year to make sure this guy gets a touchdown. Somebody needs to be calling the play to get this man a touchdown. This is ridiculous.
I'm going to play the anytime touchdown for Trey McBride this week against Carolina.
I'd say we get shirts to say free McBride. Get him a touchdown. Oh, man. So social media, we are still on it. And we got the YouTube channel live in full effect, right, Blake?
Yep. And we're talking Christmas episode next week.
We are. 'Tis the season for a little bit of Christmas, a little football. We are very excited to bring you our Christmas edition next week. Time and date to be determined, but we will be ready to go in championship week for most of you. So It's going to be an important episode to listen to. So with that being said, Fanatics, that's a wrap for this episode of the Sunday Funday Guys Fantasy Football Podcast. And remember, Fanatics, make this Sunday your fun day. All right. Did I not